Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Lupin the Third, the First. This is a movie reaction, but it is not a donation reward. This is something I'm just choosing to do on my own, because I've been wanting to see this since it came out and everything, and just never got around to it. And I was kind of hoping someone would end up choosing it as a donation reward, but no one ever did. And I knew I wanted to react to it, so I just had to basically find time where it's like I could get to a movie and everything. And so I just decided, you know what, let's just get to this now. Let's take care of it, finally get to it, check it out. So, history with the series. I have seen the original Lupin the Third. I've seen multiple movies. Obviously, my favorite is the Castle of Cagliostro, because it's pretty much everyone's favorite. Let's be honest, it's because of Hayao Miyazaki working on it. It was one of Miyazaki's first films, if not his, I think it might have actually been his singular first feature film. And it was pre-Ghibli and everything too, so it's kind of a big deal. But even outside of Miyazaki, his work on it, it was just really well written. The characters were really well handled, and everyone really got a time to shine. If I had to say a favorite character in this, it would probably be between Jigen or Fujiko. Jigen is just like the cool kind of funny character, the sidekick to Lupin, but also voice of reason. And Richard Epcar voices him in the dub throughout most of the incarnations, and I've always just really loved Richard Epcar's voice performances. You may remember, if you watched it, he was on my top 20 English voice actors list that I did recently, with Jigen as one of the characters I highlighted for him. But Fujiko has also always been a favorite of mine, just because I really like badass action women, like women who are very obviously like sexy and they know it and they use that, but also are very capable. They're strong, they're smart, they're able to handle themselves perfectly well, and a lot of times even get the better of their male counterparts. And I think I've liked that ever since Irene Adler from the Sherlock Holmes stories. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle gave us, back in the 1800s, this badass femme fatale character with Irene Adler, who has inspired so many other characters throughout the years. And honestly, I would not be surprised if, when Monkey Punch created Lupin the Third, he saw some inspiration there from Irene Adler in creating Fujiko. I would not be surprised at all. Obviously, Fujiko is a lot more action-oriented, and Lupin the Third in general tends to be, than Sherlock Holmes, but still. And of course, we've got to have the other great characters in here, like Goemon and Inspector Zenigata. But I don't really know too much about this film's plot or anything. I believe it's a prequel to most of the other content. Like it's called The First because I believe it's about Lupin's first big caper. I might be wrong about that, but I believe that's what it's about. And I also know that Monkey Punch passed away before the release of this film. And people really just paid huge tribute to him because of that when this came out. I will be watching the dub because, as I noted, I love Richard Epcar as Jigen, but also I just prefer the dub voices for these characters. It's kind of what I grew up with and what I've just always known from them. I always expect them to sound a certain way, honestly. And although the Japanese voices, from what I've heard, are not bad necessarily, it's just not what I really like with these characters. This movie is also done in 3D animation rather than the standard 2D that Lupin III is normally in. But I have seen a couple clips and I've heard people talk about it, and it's supposedly one of the single best 3D animated movies like ever. From what I've heard, people are saying that it rivals pretty much anything out there across the entire world, including Disney Pixar, that it's that well animated. And I've only seen a couple clips myself, but it looks really good. So I don't know if I can quite say it's top level yet. I have to see more of it, but we'll see. Another thing that Lupin the Third has always been known for is its soundtrack. Lupin has a very specific soundtrack to it that it's like you just recognize right off the bat. It's just kind of iconic in its own right. So the instant you hear it, it kind of brings these excitement-filled emotions to you, and you're ready to see what kind of shenanigans these characters get up to. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the elephant in the room with this series. Lupin the Third came out in a very different time originally, and a lot of people have notably found issue, to put it lightly, with Lupin's womanizing. And I will not even try to deny that. Lupin is 100% a womanizer. He is a horny womanizer. But I think one of the biggest reasons why it's never bothered me as much as like other shows or movies or whatever have with characters like that is because Lupin actively respects women at the same time, which is weird to think about. He's both a womanizer, but he also extremely heavily respects women. He acknowledges that women can be strong. He acknowledges that they can be smart and capable. Hell, I mean, Fujiko, he acknowledges heavily and just has an on-again, off-again relationship with her kind of because of it, because of how capable he sees her. But also because he's horny as hell. That's why it's on again, off again. But he never looks down on women or treats them as second class or sees them as lesser than men. He's just really sexually charged, to put it simply. So it is definitely a little bit irksome when watching it, but luckily it never has gone too far with it. And when you really think about it as well, not that this justifies those kind of actions or anything, Lupin isn't really the good guy in any of these. I mean, yeah, he kind of helps people at times, but you have to realize he's a thief. He's a criminal. He is actively a criminal. Like, that's kind of his big thing. So it's like, he's not exactly supposed to be the model of, like, morality. He's not supposed to be seen as an aspirational character. You're not supposed to want to be like him. If anything, you're supposed to not want to be like him. He's entertaining though. He's fun. He's hilarious. He's goofy as hell. That's what appeals us to him while even acknowledging that he's not the best person. And it's not like he's the only bad guy in media that fans grow attached to. We just have to acknowledge that some of the things he does are not really that okay. So yeah, as long as we can acknowledge that, we can still enjoy his character. Um, but yeah, I am very much interested in this film. I'm interested to see what they do with it, and maybe I'll recognize some other voices too. Um, but yeah, one other thing to note: I do not know what this film is rated. This will be the last thing I know before we start as well. Um, and I say that, I point that out because there's been Lupin the Third movies and media and stuff with really blatant nudity in it. Um, I got a movie during a panel at a convention at YomaCon here in Detroit, and I don't remember what the name of the movie is, but it's one of the Lupin the Third movies, and it shows very noticeable, very heavy, full frontal nudity of Fujiko in it. And it's like that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just saying, like, I don't know if this movie is going to be more like that, or if it's going to be more like Castle of Cagliostro, where it's like, oh yeah, there's some sexy stuff in it, but nothing that goes like too far. I don't know. I don't know exactly like what this is rated or any of that kind of information that would give me a clue as to what to expect in terms of that. There will probably be swearing. It's probably at least PG-13 levels. So there'll probably be swearing, probably be that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't. And there might be some sexiness, even if there's no blatant nudity. I don't mind either way as long as it's well done. As long as the story is good, as long as the characters are good, and as long as it's just fun. And I've heard good things. I've heard that this movie is good. A lot of people have said that this is a good Lupin the Third film. So we'll see. We will see. But we're just going to get this started and hope for the best. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. Or to the movie, rather. I'm so used to saying episode, it just slips out sometimes. To the movie. But that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I looked it up. Yeah, this movie came out in December of 2019, and Monkey Punch passed away in April of that year. So months before the movie came out. And that really is sad that he never got to live long enough for the movie's release. So that tribute at the beginning of the credits does hit hard. But you can still see the passion for these characters and for these stories within this film. You can see the passion that was created by Monkey Punch and how throughout all of these decades that this series has been going, this franchise has been going, it's not really lost its touch. Because even though not everything that has been put out for Lupin the Third has been amazing, not everything is the best on the levels of like Castle of Cagliostro, obviously. You'll still get really high quality content because the characters are that good. The characters are that good. The comedy is good. The stories are good. It's just fun. And even characters who are specific for specific movies, like um the girl in this one, even movie specific characters or episode specific characters or whatever, are still very good, still very enjoyable and likable. And so, in pretty much every way, I would say that this movie succeeded. It did what it set out to do, and that was give us an entertaining and completely fitting Lupin the Third story. Um, it seems like what I had heard about it being like the first caper for Lupin, I don't think that's the case. So I'm not sure what the title was exactly about then. Um, it just seemed like it was just another Lupin the Third mystery. It was good. I enjoyed it, but it didn't really like lend itself to the title in any way. Like it could have easily been called like Lupin the Third: The Diary of Brisson, and that would have fit actually much better. It would have sounded like a Lupin the Third title, and it would have fit the movie really well. So I don't know what the meaning behind the title is, but I could look it up later, I guess. I'm not going to take the time to try to figure it out now. But, so let's talk about this from the perspective of someone who has been knowledgeable, to some degree at least, about this franchise, and just from a just pure enjoyment perspective itself. So, in terms of knowing these characters and the situations and everything that these characters tend to get themselves into, yeah, it was a very good representation of them. All the characters felt exactly like themselves. Um, I really have no complaints. Goemon, Zenigata, Jigen, Fujiko, Lupin himself, they all felt like themselves. Their personalities were right, their characters were right. Um, yeah, everything just worked. Obviously, they had the voice actors, so that definitely helped. Um, Definitely of the main like recurring cast of this franchise. For the sake of this movie, the ones who stood out were obviously Lupin, because main character, title character, and Fujiko. Jigen and Goemon and Zenigata as well were much more of side characters. That they were supporting cast for sure. Um, which I mean, in a lot of cases they are, but then you watch something like The Castle of Cagliostro, and they have a more notable role in that film. At least Jigen and Zenigata do. In here, they were definitely relegated to side plots, side characters who just came in every now and again to help, while the actual like side characters who were still important were more of the likes of this girl, Brisson's granddaughter, who is her name is escaping me right now. I don't know why, but I'm not gonna bring the thing up. But yeah, Letitia, that's it. Yeah, Letitia. Um, she was a notable side character. Like she actually had a role to play and was important throughout the entire thing. And again, Jigen and Goemon only kind of just showed up randomly here and there, and so did Fujiko. But Fujiko felt more like a character to me, and Jigen and Goemon and Zenigata even felt like they were just there to help at a couple points, and that's it. I don't know why Fujiko felt more important than me when she didn't even really do too much more. Maybe it's admittedly because I like her. She's one of my favorite Lupin the Third characters. So maybe there is a bias there. I fully acknowledge that possibility. But I don't know. I just felt like she was more like notable to the film. Um, And speaking of, I was wondering if in the pre-thoughts, like how far were they going to go with this? Like, what's this rated? Based on what we saw, it's probably PG-13. Um, but yeah, I have seen like Lupin the Third material before, one of the movies at least, that has shown full frontal nudity for Fujiko, and I have seen, I think even some of the one or two of the series actually had some pretty practically nude shots in it with her. Um, but they didn't go that route with her. There was one scene where like she like took off her clothes, but it didn't show anything. It was like off screen. Um, and there was quite a bit of cleavage, but that's about it. Um, and whatever, that's okay. Um, like I said in the pre-thoughts, it's like as long as it's well done, it doesn't really matter to me either way. I could go either way and be happy with it. But Fujiko, personality wise, was really done well here. Just having that kind of sneaky kind of personality where she pretends to be like a damsel in distress, pretends to be uh like just this really pretty, like kind of almost ditzy girl, like to get people to trust in her, and then she like snaps out of the handcuffs and wrecks their shit because she's awesome like that. Um, like I said in the pre-thoughts, it's like Fujiko is a very strong, capable woman. She's very sexy. She's very sexy in a lot of the media for this, but the series never just turns her into an object. It never objectifies her. It always treats her like an actual character and a respectable character, someone who is very capable and strong and smart and can take care of themselves, and that's really respectable to see. Um, and again, you see in this movie how Lupin does respect women, and you see how willing to help he is, even despite his womanizing, which really isn't as bad in this one. Like you see a lot of Lupin the Third content, and he's a lot worse than a lot of the other stuff. In here, it's like he was a horn dog for like maybe one scene. That's it. It was really not a big deal for this one, which is a little surprising, but completely fine, completely welcome. Jigen was as much of the straight man as always. Goemon had a little more emotion than I'm used to with him in this one regarding his katana, but I mean it fit his character still. And Zenigata was just Zenigata. As for the newer characters, the ones who are specific to this movie, Letitia was great. She was so fucking likable. Like you were just pretty much instantly on her side the entire time, and she's just like you want to see her succeed, you want to see her happy, and you want to see her get away from these fucking Nazis. And let's, I guess, talk about that. Like I said in the reaction, Lupin the Third isn't afraid to get political, to use the phrase, because a lot of people nowadays are like so afraid of the idea of media getting political and act like that's not, they act like that hasn't been the case for like forever. Media's always been political. Movies and shows and everything is political. And Lupin the Third has never been afraid of that. They've never been afraid to delve into that and make a statement. Monkey Punch has never been afraid to do so, and that is very clear here. We have a literal group of Nazis who believe that Hitler faked his death, his suicide, and is trying to find this ancient super weapon so that Hitler can rise back to power. It's like, it's 100% political. The entire thing is political. And it was well done because it just made you despise the Nazis, as it should. Like, without question, the Nazis are amongst the worst human beings in history. They were so absolutely fucking horrible. And those remaining, whether from those days or just following in their footsteps, like I said it in the reaction, and I stand by it. And you guys know I'm usually a pretty peaceful person, and I don't believe in the death penalty. I've talked about that before. But when it comes to Nazis, they deserve fucking death. And like I said in the reaction, not a quick death either. And I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I'm not going to hold back on those beliefs. I truly believe that they deserve it. Their ideology as a whole, like whether or not they actively did anything, their ideology as a whole is just pure evil. And I've talked about this before with like Schindler's List and all. I'm not going to go into too heavy of a rant about how fucking evil Nazis are and how they just need to be wiped out with intense discrimination. You know what I mean? There's a term for it, and I can't remember. It wasn't intense discrimination. Extreme prejudice. That's the term. They need to be wiped out with extreme prejudice because Nazi scum deserves to fucking die. But this movie did really well in making us hate these characters. There's the kind of super loyal, I guess, super loyalist Nazi guy who's just kind of like overwatching things, and then there's the old man who is Letitia's adoptive grandfather figure, who at first you kind of see a little bit of possible good in him, but then when you see how absolutely fucking batshit insane the cunt is, it's just no. And even with his sacrifice at the end, it's like I have no sympathy for him at this point. There's nothing that can stop that. There's nothing that can make him redeemable at this point. And that might seem harsh, but I'm not holding back when it comes to Nazis. I will never hold back when it comes to Nazis. One act of good at the end of his life is not enough to redeem him. For all that he did, for all that he was willing to do, all the lives that he would be like responsible for ending, no, that one act does not redeem that. So I felt no sympathy for his death at all. But I liked the. I think my favorite sequence in this, my favorite part of this movie, was definitely when they were in the tomb going through all the different traps. Just the creativity of these traps, and I said in the reaction, I love the concept of ancient technology that is actually kind of futuristic in a way. I brought up Atlantis, The Lost Empire, the Disney movie, because that did that kind of thing really well, and I think they did it really well here too. The device felt very futuristic in its design and style and everything of what it did, but it was actually ancient technology from a long ass time ago. So it's like that's fascinating to me that both of those kind of things can that they can exist together in one object. And that's another thing. Without question, the device was absolutely horrific in what it did, creating these miniature black holes that would absolutely destroy everything in its vicinity. Basically, an instant death sentence to anyone around, but even more than that. And this movie had a couple of moments like that were kind of nightmarish, like especially during that scene when the Nazis were at the tomb and everything, and they were at the first trap. when Hans was sent into it and his body got crushed and compacted like that. It's like I'm not even kidding when I say how horrific that was. When I was talking in the reaction about how absolutely horrific that was, I'm not joking. That actually bothered the shit out of me. And I've seen that kind of thing in other media where a person is like compacted like that. And not necessarily in that exact same way, but like when basically the idea of like things closing around a person until they're like kind of crushed. In this case, it wasn't quite like that. It was more like these magnetic forces were crushing the body rather than like physical objects. But like you see this in another anime movie, actually, Akira. As much as I am not a fan of Akira, as much as I have plenty of issues with that film, um, there is one scene that will always stand out to me, and that is when the only good character of the film, the girl who I want to say was Tetsuo's girlfriend, but I might be wrong about that. But when she ends up getting crushed by Tetsuo's like giant mutated body and everything, you see her like surrounded by the fleshy mechanical body and everything, and you see it compact around her. You see her screaming, you see the fear on her face. It compacts around her, and then it pops her like a blister. It just compacts until it pops her, and you see this blood goosh upward, and it's like it is one of the most horrific scenes in anime for me, without question. That kind of death for me is horrific. Um, it for me, it's right up there with pretty much everything in the final climax of Blood Sea. And if you know what I'm talking about with Blood Sea, it's like you know how absolutely stunningly horrific that series got by the end. Um, like it's the kind of stuff that makes me legitimately feel physically ill. That makes me want to throw up just to feel better. And this was almost on that level. It bothered me that much. So I have to give them kudos for that. I feel like if there would have been blood, if there would have been notable blood that would have naturally occurred from that kind of thing, I think that would have put it over the edge, and I possibly would have puked. Or at least gotten very fucking close. Because it disturbed me to no end. Um, but the comedy in this movie, on a lighter note, was good. It wasn't the best comedy I've seen for Lupin the Third, but it was good. There was a lot of fun jokes, a lot of like the goofy zaniness you expect from these characters. Um, exactly what you'd want to see from a Lupin the Third film. Um, the animation. Let's talk about the art style and animation, the 3D models. Because as I said in the pre-thoughts, a lot of people I've heard say, a lot of people I've heard talk about this film have said that the animation, the 3D animation is really good, and that it could rival even Disney. I think it was good. It was very good, aside from the lip sync. The lip sync was actually not that great. But ignoring the lip sync, the rest of the animation stuff was really good, but it was not on Disney level. Like you watch the likes of Coco or Moana or Frozen 2, specifically the second one because it has better animation than the first Frozen. You watch those movies and they're better in terms of their animation, in terms of the movements, just the way it looks, even not just including the style, but the way the movements and the fluidity of it looks when you're watching. It's better than this was. Um, so I think people were over exaggerating this, but it is really good. They did a good job, except with the lip sync. But that might just be for the English version too. It might look better in Japanese. I don't know. I haven't obviously seen the Japanese version, so But all in all, again, it was very good. The voice acting was great. Everyone did a fantastic job. All the returning voices, all the new voices. It again, the voice acting and the quality of it was what I would expect. And just, I really thought this was a good movie. It wasn't the best, again, and definitely not the best for Lupin the Third, but I really enjoyed it. And I'm glad I finally got to see it. It was definitely worth it, 100%. Um, but it could have been better. It just could have been. And it's nothing specific I would have to say towards this film that like didn't work or anything. It's just I feel like it just could have been better, just in a general sense. So yeah, but I still did very much enjoy it. um, but yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts as well. So tell me in the comments below, what did you think of Lupin the Third, the First? Um, and what do you think about the possibility of maybe bringing in some more Lupin the Third stuff in the future on the channel? I know there's multiple newer TV series for it. There's plenty of movies. There's a possibility of more of it coming to the channel, I guess. It's just, we'd have to see. Let me know your thoughts on all of that and anything else you can think of down in the comments below. And if there's anything that I forgot to mention from the movie that you would like to hear my thoughts on, feel free to ask about that as well. For now, though, thank you so much once more for tuning in. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.